Bhagwan Shri Yogi Ramsuratkumar ki Jai. Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Arpanamastu. We have been singing His name by His own grace. With the prayer, and that could not have happened but for His will. We do not know what He wills from moment to moment, but one thing we can be sure, whatever He wills will turn out to be a blessing. Coming from God, it could only be a blessing. The way the world is suffering, once again, the return of the virus in a different form. The news that we hear, no matter how alarming it is, we know that everything is happening only by His will. Some people went to Papa Ramdas and reported, because the world war, what havoc it had caused, the atom bombs. So there was a talk about these things, and everybody was saying something is very wrong, far wrong with the world for these terrible things to happen. Papa Ramdas said, no, Ramdas feels that the pulse of the world is right, nothing is wrong with it. Ramdas could feel the pulse of the world. It is okay. Nothing is wrong. So we do not know how the great masters see everything. We certainly do not know how and why God creates a situation. In the circumstances, we can only be grateful to God for all the blessings that we can count. Now we shall see today one or two or three interesting incidents, experiences, true experiences of the devotees. In what circumstances, how Bhagwan came to their help. Shri Nithya Shrikanth, she is living in a place called Herndon in Virginia. She says it was a very cold season. The winter was severe that year. So much so, the thermometer plunged deep, and instead of usual 40 degree, it was much less than that, 40 degree F. It was much less. So cold outside, but all these houses there were saved by the central heating system. Just as we have refrigerators amidst summer, which could keep things cold and preserved. They have the central heating system, the heaters, and that would circulate the steam or hot water and give warmth to the whole house. They had a heater which was working tirelessly for 11 years already. And one day in February, she found out that the heater was not working anymore, though they had kept up 64 degree F for the heat inside the house. It was much less. It was much less heat that they experienced inside the house. It was getting more and more cold. It took some time for them to find out that the heater was not working. And what was more, there was an auxiliary heater given along with that. It would switch on by itself if there was extra stress upon the first heater. If more heat was required than what it could give out, the auxiliary heater would switch on. So they found this auxiliary heater switched on, which meant the main heater was working very hard to create the temperature, and yet it was only getting colder and colder inside the house. So they slowly began to understand that it was not working. Immediately, her husband Shrikanth went around the house, looked at every possible hole through which the cold outside could seep in. For 2 days he was ransacking the whole house for any seepage, and there was none. But he did not examine the heater. Now 1 week had passed. It was getting colder and colder by the minute, and they were unable to do anything about it. So husband called out this service personnel. Nithya says that it would take 1 week for those people to come and get the heater repaired. So they were all preparing to go out to another place as long as it would take to do the repairing. So the next day, they were going to leave the house. So they were packing up their dresses and everything. Until then, they were managing with extra sweaters and warm clothes. When they had planned to leave the house the next day, and that was the day they had called the service people also to come and check. It was about 9 o'clock. It was about 9:50 or something. Nithya was unable to sleep. She went to the puja room when her husband was fast asleep, and so was her son, Murali Krishna. So she ran down to the basement. She went to the puja room first, and she sat before Bhagwan's picture, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and with folded hands and tears, she began to pray. She kept on chanting Yogi Ramsuratkumar Nama for 15 minutes, and from the depths of her heart, she prayed. She said, Bhagwan, don't you know how Panduranga, Vitthal, helped Ekanathji with his hands when there was rain? How he protected the house of Ekanathji with both his hands. when it was raining outside. Can't you do something? It is getting colder and colder here. We have come to the point of leaving the house for some time. And if we have to buy a new heater, it would cost $6,000, $7,000, which we cannot afford. Whether it would come within the insurance. Bhagwan, can you not do something? Please do something immediately. She kept praying and praying and praying. And then she had placed one single flower in front of the photo. She took that flower as his prasad, and then this sandal paste and kumkum she had placed on Bhagwan. She collected that also, went to the basement and saw the heater. The two heaters were there, and the main heater was struggling like a heart struggling to pump. She just went, and there were two heaters, the main and the auxiliary, and she had to place only one flower. So there were petals, and therefore she divided it into two. She kept only half the flower on the heater, the main one, and then the other half on the other heater. And then she put the chanting, that is the sandal paste and kumkum, on both, with a prayer, please become all right. Start working. Bhagwan, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, please set it right. And as she was placing the flower, she saw near that was that air filter, and there was a piece of cobweb. She noticed it. Normally, when we see cobweb anywhere, immediately, the immediate tendency is to remove it from there. But somehow it did not strike her to remove. She just saw it and came away. The next day morning, when her husband woke up, she reported how she went to the puja room, chanted the name for 15 minutes, only 15 minutes, and prayed, and then put the flower, sandal paste and kumkum on both the heaters with a prayer to Bhagwan. And the husband had already called this service personnel. After she said that, there was a call from the service people. They wanted to know the model number of the heater. So her husband Shrikanth rushed inside near the heater to look for the model number. And that is when he noticed the flower, and near the flower he saw the air filter, and there was a piece of cobweb. Immediately he removed the cobweb, and suddenly it struck him in a flash, why haven't I changed the air filter? I have been ransacking the whole house looking for holes for the seepage. But then I have not replaced this air filter. And then he removed that air filter, and then to his horror he saw it was filled with dust. So the dust particles had blocked the air passage, the hot air passage. And that is how the main heater was struggling. Immediately he took out the new air filters and fitted them there, and within half an hour they found the temperature of the house increasing. It warmed up soon, and then you can imagine the joy of Nithya. She knew immediately it was Bhagwan. Didn't she pray to him to set it right somehow? The new one would cost $6,000, $7,000, which they could not afford. And Bhagwan had gone ahead and done exactly that. How did he do it? Just see, before she chanted the name and called out for help, what they were going through day after day after day, not knowing what to do, putting up with the cold, and finally deciding to leave the house. But after she chanted, after he prayed to Bhagwan with chanting, a call comes from the service people for model number. Shrikanth goes near the heater to look for the model number, and then he finds this cobweb there. Just see the series of actions that followed. And in a flash, he realizes he has not changed the air filter, and to his horror, he found it filled with the dust. And after the air filters were changed, the whole house warmed up. This is the difference between chanting, not chanting the name, and chanting the name. How dramatically every detail changes for the better. This is a very good demonstration, a great leela of Bhagwan to impress upon us the value of his name. Now, Nithya says she has another experience, 2 more experiences to share with us. Her son, Murali Krishna, a schoolboy, was attending classes of a Korean karate. He was very good at form, kicking, and sparring, but when it came to breaking the board, he failed miserably. Somehow he could not bring himself to do it successfully. All that he did in the process was hurt his foot. He had to break the plank into 2 by kicking with the front of his foot. But only the foot got hurt and the board did not break at all. This also affected him psychologically, that he began to lose confidence. He was very good at form, kicking and sparring and all that, all the rest, except this breaking the board. He was going to do his examination in a few days, so the parents were helping him to practice. On the previous day to the examination, both father and mother, the father held the plank, and the mother encouraged Murali Krishna to start trying. As many as 15 tries he made, but he was very diffident and he could not hit it successfully. Now he was very scared and very tired. He said he would not even try, no matter what. But then the parents thought, okay, let him rest for some time. We won't force him now. So after some time in the night, from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., again, they motivated him and said, just try your best. You will definitely be able to do it. So again another 25 trials. Murali Krishna yielded. He started. But this time he found out that if the foot should not hurt, there is a specific way of wearing the socks. That he found out, so he put it on so that when he kicked, it did not hurt his foot. So he tried, and out of those 25 trials, he succeeded only once. And after that he tried 2 times and he failed. So they left it at that. What else could they do? They tried their best. Now, there is only one way out, and that is Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Nithya knew from her experiences that only Yogi Ramsuratkumar would help them out of any situation. So she started to pray to Bhagwan, she started to chant his name. And the next day for the examination, at 6 o'clock, she took her son at 5:45. When they reached the place, she started chanting. And very desperately at that, just as she desperately chanted Bhagwan's name for 15 minutes and prayed, when the heater went on strike. Now Murali Krishna has gone on strike. He is full of diffidence, and she didn't know how to encourage him, how to make him do it. Only Yogi Ramsuratkumar. So she kept chanting and chanting and chanting desperately. When we are desperate in a situation, we put our entire being into prayer, entire being into chanting. Probably that's why Bhagwan gives such situations. So she started it, and she saw her son Murali Krishna filled with such great enthusiasm and strength, and was going ahead, excelling in form, in kicking, in sparring, everything. All right, that was all okay. The last one was breaking the board. Now she was even more desperate than before, and chanting and chanting and praying with all her being. Please make him do it. Please, Bhagwan, please help him. Make him do it. You do it. And now, as she was excelling in everything, filled with new enthusiasm and strength, Murali Krishna began to feel confident. So when it came to the last exercise, he was still feeling confident, and he started to kick. He was just about to give a kick, and here Nithya was praying, and suddenly he kicked. They would be given 3 chances, and within those 3 chances they must succeed. So with confidence, he thought, okay, among the 3 I would definitely succeed. But the very first time he kicked, it was a perfect breaking of the plank into 2 halves. To the great delight and surprise of everybody around, because everybody knew his weakness. And imagine the joy that Nithya must have gone through. How thrilling it must have been. And Murali Krishna came and said, Ma, I did not do it at all. It is definitely not me. I only remember lifting my leg. And it was Yogi Ramsuratkumar who did that. Sure, it must have been him. The very first attempt, he succeeded. And so joyfully. And now, what has happened? Apart from this miracle, another miracle, Murali Krishna now developed faith in Bhagwan. Bhagwan's Nama Bhagwan's grace. Nithya considers this as the greatest miracle. Sure, it is. And for this miracle to happen only, all the other miracles are happening. Nithya says that her son has found out that he could develop enthusiasm and faith, confidence, by chanting his name. Now there was a third incident. They call it Pokemon. I don't know how you pronounce it because I've not even heard about it before until I came to read this experience. They say it's a pack of cards with different pictures. It's a video game or something. He was very fond of this game, like many other kids of his age. It was a passion with him. And he had his own pack. And suddenly, one day he lost them. He did not know where he had placed it, how he lost it, but he did. He became very restless, very disappointed. And then he searched and searched, ransacked the whole house. He could not find it. Then his mother, Nithya, said, "It's okay. Now you know, by chanting Bhagwan's name, you could always get back what you lost. Now you chant his name 108 times. He will somehow give it to you." So he, true to her word, he sat and chanted 108 times and once again searched for 2 days. He could not find it anywhere. So Nithya started to pacify him. She said, "It's okay, it is the will of Bhagwan. Maybe it is too much of a passion with you, and Bhagwan wants you to get rid of this habit, this passion. And that is why it is happening. Whatever happens is good. This is what our Bhagwan said. So have faith in him and accept it." How could the little boy accept it so easily? But on the third day, when he went to school, one of his friends turned up and gave him back the pack of cards, saying that another friend took them away in order to see what pictures he had, and he returned it. You can imagine the thrill and joy that he went through, this little boy, Murali Krishna. He came home jubilant and reported, "Ma, Yogi Ramsuratkumar has worked again, the miracle. I got back my pack of cards." So you see, chanting the name and praying for what you want, it's unfailing grace. If it should happen at all that despite your desperate prayer and chanting his name, something unexpected, something negative should continue, it could only mean that what you cannot get is not good for you, and that is why you have been put in this situation. Nithya is right when she told her boy, "If you don't get the pack of cards, it's okay, it is his will. It is good for you, and that is why he's doing it." So let us learn to accept whatever he gives after our sincere prayer and chanting. Many times he gives us what we want. Quite a few times it may not happen also, but God's grace is ever unfailing. So it could only mean that what we seek is not good for us, and that's why he's keeping it away, and let us learn to accept it with grace. Accepting whatever happens after our appeal to Bhagwan is the first step to surrender. In acceptance lies our salvation. In the beginning of our spiritual life, we think grace is what we get when we ask for it. And if we don't get something, then we think that Bhagwan has let us down and there is no grace. But slowly, slowly, as we evolve to a higher plane, we begin to understand how God runs the whole universe. We begin to understand that everything that happens has already been predetermined, and that is according to the karmas of our past lives. And we begin to understand slowly that every happening is as per this arrangement. And it is the best that can happen to us at that moment. Even the negative happenings have been designed specifically and specially for us in order to give a push towards God. So everything that happens is a definite blessing. This I have been repeating almost every day, because a sure sign of progress in spiritual life is to accept things without grumbling, without complaining, knowing that God is running your life and whatever happens is the best that can happen to you at that moment. It does not mean that you should not make an effort at all. If something goes wrong, you have to make all the effort to set it right. You have to resort to God and His grace. But even after desperate praying and chanting, if something continues, then you accept it as God's will and God's definite blessing for something that would be good for you. It is for the better. Now this Bhagwan is here right in front of us. Let us submit our today's prayers. As I said, we have been doing it now almost a year, and still the situation persists. Though of course, in the middle it has reduced much, and there was normalcy in the whole of Tamil Nadu at least, that people were moving about easily. Even the celebrations were held in different places with lots of people. But once again, there's a new wave, and we have to be careful once again. We shall accept it and continue our effort to chant His name and pray. Gita says, Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyeva adhikaraste, na paleshu kadachi. We have the right only to do the work. We have no right to the results. The results are in the hands of Bhagwan. So let us do our duty of prayer. Bhagwan, we seek your immediate divine intervention to free the entire humanity from the entire family of this virus and bring back normalcy in every aspect of life, everywhere. Kindly remove the fear and other negative feelings from the hearts of people.
Yogi Ramsuratkumar